Pat,
Pleasure.
I didn't even have to issue my warning. We're already ahead of schedule. Thank you, Dave and Pat, for that. Next up is Liz Lorente, who this evening is going to give us an overview of Transition Town Marlow. Liz, these next 10 minutes are yours.
Thank you, Steph, and thank you, Dave. I can understand why you're a little nervous. It is a very, very bizarre medium to be talking to people. I would really much rather be talking to you in person, face to face. But hey ho, you know, this is the way of the times at the moment. Thank you, Frank, for putting up. That's our logo, Transition Town Marlow. Transition Town Marlow was formed in more or less 2008. There were little gems, little seeds before that, but I think it was properly, officially formed in 2008, 2009. So it's been around for quite a while. Now, Transition Town Marlow is part of the Transition Town movement, which Dave mentioned earlier. Started mostly centered around Totnes. It's an international movement. They have, but largely UK based, but it's also international. We were the 200th transition town formed. That was back in 2008. I have no idea how many there are now, but there are lots. What is it? TTM, or Transition Town Marlow, I'm going to call it TTM, so please log that in your brains, that's what I'm talking about. TTM is a community-led initiative on sustainability and climate change. We aim to strengthen the local community and reduce our environmental impacts through projects that are enjoyable, constructive, inspiring, and produce positive change. We're not a membership organisation as such. We do have a core number of people who run and I'd say drive, I don't say run, drive various different projects, but we're very much open to all. We very much consider that everyone resident in Marlow and surrounds is a member of Transition Town Marlow. We operate on a projects basis, and I've been asked to give you an overview because we've got 2 of our projects are going to be introduced later on, and some more projects will be introduced next week and the following week, so you can find out more in detail. It's a grassroots movement. It's community-based. It's not top-run. We don't have a chairperson as such. You know, I've been around it for a long time, but I'm very much not the chairperson. We are legally, we're actually a KIC, which is a community interest company. That's a little bit like a limited company. We make profits. We actually pay corporation tax, but any money that we make goes back into the community. No one is on a salary. We're about to change and become a CIO. This is a charitable incorporated organisation. That's a kind of very long name, which is why we call it a CIO. It's, to you and I, it's basically a charity. It's, thank you very much, a lovely guy called Richard Parker came along and offered to help with the finances. And this is very much how TTM works. He turned up at a meeting. He wanted to make a difference environmentally in the local community. And he took on doing quite a lot of the financial stuff, and he was the one who suggested, why don't you change to become a charitable organisation so that we don't have to pay tax. Right, what else can I say? Our response to, you know, humanity's response to climate change and the environment, by its nature, has to be very, very multifaceted. There are loads of different areas in which we can make a difference. As such, TTM is also multifaceted and has a lot of very different people in it. And we try to embrace all. We hope we do our best to embrace everyone who comes along. As I've mentioned, it is project-based. A while ago, people used to come along and say, oh, why don't you do X, Y, or Z? Well, we're actually a very small number of people, and we're very committed to the existing projects that we're running. Yes, we can offer assistance, and often when someone comes along with a new, different project, you'll often get, you know, 1 or 2 or 3 people will say, yes, that's something I enjoy doing, and you get a team together. As a principle, I kind of say a team of 3 is your minimum. That seems to be what works. Teams of two, two of you can sort of somehow give up and be flaky or whatever, but more than three gets difficult in terms of the coordination. I think I'd like to just go through some of the projects that we've covered. I'll cover some past projects because they won't be talked about by the particular people that are talking tonight. We had a solar panel buying group. That was way back. I don't even remember when it was. It was like 2010, 2011, something like that. So a Marlow-wide solar panel buying group. We did thermal imaging around Marlow. We were taking thermal photos of different people's houses if people requested to have a thermal image done, and then we'd send you a thermal photograph of your house and you could see where you were leaking heat. We've organised bike rides. We've organised bike routes. I don't know if you've seen the Marlow Loop going around Marlow. That was a TTM initiative, and in fact we involved some young people from Wickham predominantly to do that project, to do it with us, to do it jointly with us. It was the purpose of it was to bring these young people together and empower them to be able to do a project. So that was one thing. We have had a vegetable plot down at White Lodge for a long time. There's now a Marlow Home Growers Group that's sort of loosely affiliated to Transition Town Marlow. We've shown films. We've shown various films. We'd like to show more. If anyone wants to see particular films, when we can see films together, or do it on an online basis, that's something we're interested in terms of education. And we ran the community market, which is in Liston Hall, for about 5 years. I'd like to move on to give you an idea of some current projects that will be mostly talked about in this series going forward. Cycling and walking, that's a very big group. And they currently mostly communicate with local authorities at various different levels, from Bucks all the way down to Marlow Town Council, about improving and increasing the cycle availability, let's say. And they're obviously involved in the Marlow Loop. We've got Relief, which is about planting trees across Marlow. We run the Marlow Market. I'll talk about that next week. And we also run the Repair Cafe. Frank will talk about that. We started the community orchard in Seymour Park. It was planted, I think it was 4 years ago. I think maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. We've just increased it just recently, planting trees in Seymour Park. Wombles, they're part of Transition Town Marlow, including litter picking and binning your butt. We do education via a stall at the Marlow Market once a month. Obviously not, well, it's shrunk down. The market's shrunk down. The market's happening, but it's shrunk down at the moment. As you can probably see, a lot of those things, yes, they have an environmental bent, but they also have a very strong community focus. One of the things we've found within all our projects that we do is that they bring people together, and bringing people together creates a strong community, and apparently creating a strong community actually reduces carbon emissions. It's all about sharing and doing things more locally, etc. So this is actually a really important underlying feature of Transition Town Marlow. It's about bringing the community together. We welcome anyone in. We run green coffee once a month on the third Thursday of the month. We also have what's called green catch up. That's an evening meeting. Those meetings you can find information about them on the website. Okay, you can find information on the website, and you can also sign up to our newsletter on the website. Anything else really important that I need to say in the last 10 seconds? One of the things word I'd like to use is resilient. One of the things we're trying to do is to create a more resilient community in Marlow. And I think that's probably as much as I can say in sort of vague terms, keeping it as hopefully as vague as possible. But thank you very much, and thank you for coming and listening to everybody here. It's great. Back to you, Steph.